Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's latest global developments. My name is Alec, and in front of me I have Joshua Cheatham. In this week's latest global developments, we're going to be talking about the Turkish elections and South Africa allegedly supplying weapons to Russia. South Africa allegedly supplying weapons to Russia. That is major.
Very major.
A big, what you call it? A big accusation for that one. But we're gonna get into that shortly after we talk about the Turkish elections. So, in Turkey right now, there are ongoing presidential and parliamentary elections. The main race for the presidency is between current President Tayyip Erdogan, which is he is under the Justice and Development Department or the AK Party, and Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. All right, we're gonna have to call him Kemal
Yeah, we're gonna call him Kamal.
for the rest of this, which he is under the Republicans People's Party or the CHP. We're going to be using the AK Party and the CHP parties throughout this. Current polls as of May 12th, 2023 at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, it shows Erdogan is sitting at 44 to 45% support, while his rival Kemal sits at a 50% support level. So,
He's got a slight edge in the polls over whom used to be a fairly popular president, Mr. President Erdogan. Elections will be held on May the 15th. Apparently, like yesterday, three other people dropped out of the election, and so now it's just those two against each other,
those
Kamal
are
versus
from the
Erdogan.
smaller parties, correct?
Yeah, from the smaller
Yeah.
parties, which apparently has been is going to be a pretty big boost to Kamal because those guys were not they were against the what is it the Development Party. So to talk about Erdogan, he's led the country since 2003, and he's probably put them through their biggest and probably most prosperous phase throughout their history. He rebuilt their entire country, built roads, added new infrastructure, gave them 5G. He was the person to kind of bridge NATO between the Muslim worlds and the West, and he pulled a lot of people out of millions out of poverty. So he was very, very popular up until 2014. There was an economic collapse, or 2013, sorry. And there, since then, he's been trying to cut power into just himself. He's been kind of turning Turkey into an autocracy, as many think tanks and political scientists have been saying as of recent years. So there's a lot going on in Turkey right now. Many people think that if he takes power again, he'll be able to just make himself like a dictator, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, the whole dictatorship thing, and there's been multiple instances where he's jailed his political opponents as well. Multiple instances. He emerged from being a good leader up until, as you said, the economic collapse. And we're seeing economic struggle again with their inflation hitting almost 80%.
yeah, no,
So the people are kind of they want to see something new now. I mean, he's been in there for 20 years and they need a new leader who is going to reverse a lot of these policies that Erdogan um, created, and they want more economic prosperity, and they don't know if they can trust Erdogan for another term to reverse economic policies. Now, both sides have said we're going to bring back the economy, but who's going to do it properly? I don't know. Um, we're just going to hope and see that I don't know. I think Kumal might have the better chance in doing it. But at the end of the day, to bring down 80% inflation to their goals, which are 4.5%,
that's their goals.
that's their goal.
Oh yeah, that's not happening. But
Is
not in the next
it's a
5 years.
stretch. It's a stretch, and we'll see. I mean, Kemal has gained popularity over Erdogan because of what he's saying about the economy, human rights issues, and reversing this like
Autocratic, yeah.
autocratic style of government and dictatorship style. So that's what kind of is causing him to win at the polls right now, and he's up 6%.
Yeah, I think
So
what he is kind of like he's like a people man for the people is what a lot of the Turkish voters are calling him. Because he even though he worked in the government 30 years, I believe, but he was a civil servant, so he was. It's a little different being a civil servant. Like
right,
you're working for the people versus working for the government. which I guess if you're an American, you would think otherwise, but that's not how it is in the rest of the world. You either work for the government or you're, private. It's very interesting to see. So in recent months, Erdogan, many people have been criticizing him for using his presidential powers, but I just call this politics, where he increased minimum wage, he boosted civil servant salaries, and he increased assistance to poor families and changed regulations to allow millions of Turks to receive their government pensions early. It's just politics at that point, and I don't know if that's going to boost him in the polls. It clearly hasn't boosted him much since this morning at 6 a.m., which that was, what, 6 hours ago in their time? 7 hours ago their time?
Yeah,
So he's doing what most presidents in most worlds do at playing politics, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get him to change his vote after what he's been doing, and this, after Turkey's fall in recent years. They are a top 20 economy in the world, but one of the biggest things that was a catastrophe was the recent earthquake
right.
that left 50,000 people dead, and they were really, really, really slow at getting the proper aid and the military to get the people out who had survived, and they're also being really slow at rebuilding that area. Um, could that be because the Kurds are there?
The
Maybe.
Kurds, mm,
I'm not sure, but they have been really slow, but nonetheless. Um, and so this is I'm not gonna be that person that says that this could determine democracy versus autocracy in the country because I'm not too keen like understanding of the politics of Turkey, but it's definitely a big election for the Muslim world.
it, going back to whether it be a matter of democracy versus autocracy, I think it is because what's not to stop him from saying, "All right, I'm in here again. This might be my last term before they actually vote me out. What if I just, reverse something, reverse a few policies here and there, keep my presidential term for as long as possible? Will it be that extreme? I'm not sure. Will he probably jail more political opponents?
Probably.
Likely. But I think it's time for Erdogan to step down. He's been leader of the country for 20 years, and after a certain point, as a leader, there's a point in time where you're just enough is enough. You get to a certain point and you start doing more harm than good
Yeah.
when you have one leader for too long. So his time should have ended back in 14, 15.
Yeah, after the
But
economic collapse.
the people saw potential in Erdogan, and I don't think that potential is there anymore. With Kamal leading 6%, it's just clear that Turkey wants to see something else.
Yeah.
I think the two biggest debates of this election is going to be one that the news didn't talk about much is NATO. Turkey has
Yes.
been such a determining factor in NATO, and they've been like the, how do I say this? Kind of like the independent piece in NATO, where you have all of NATO and then there's Turkey. That's how I see
Yeah.
the NATO Turkey relationship. And with Erdogan blocking Sweden's and Finland's bid into NATO before, um,
Thankfully, Finland got through.
Finland got through, but Sweden did not get through. They're still in the talks of getting what would you say?
Sweden into
Sweden
NATO.
into
Yeah.
Sweden into NATO. That'll also be the biggest talking point as well.
Yeah.
Now, Kamal has promised that when we develop, he says, when we develop a more democratic Turkey, we will also work. We will maintain closer ties with NATO and the EU, and that's what his goals are. Is to rebuild that relationship with NATO and not serve as like the independent piece of NATO, but rather an active member of NATO,
I,
which
l-
is
I love that.
which is kind of what sold me. In a time where we need partnerships to protect each other. I
Yeah.
think this is fantastic for Turkey, and this is
And
what Turkey needs.
one of the things in the article that the New York Times article that I read that said that he was kind of the bridge between the Muslim world, and I said this earlier,
Ah, yeah.
and the Western world. And we were talking about in a previous episode. Please watch this previous episode on Saudi Arabia. Um, wanting to be the leader of the Middle East. I think Turkey now that I've been reading up on this, could also be one of the front runners in like heading the Middle East into the new era of getting into the global geopolitics because they first off are richer than Saudi Arabia in terms of diversity of economics and their influence in NATO. I'm not gonna say influence, their participation in NATO can give them a lot more power to get the rest of the Muslim countries to work with Western Europe and the United States and Canada more closely and maybe get them to work with Latin America and Africa. So Turkey could work a lot pretty well with the likes of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar to Qatar. I don't know. That's how people say it. Qatar. Who knows?
Qatar.
That's how Dr. Schmidt says it. So I don't. I don't know. Qatar. I'm gonna
It's
say
Qatar.
Qatar for
It's
now.
Qatar.
Yeah.
It has to
Anyway,
be.
yeah. They could be that again. That new bridge to the world of it's like getting the economies intertwined
I
together.
love that.
So
But I think Kamal would be the better option
absolutely,
here
that's exactly yeah.
to be the leader of this bridge, and he could serve as the bridge between the West and the Middle East, as you said before. And I think that that would be perfect. And I think that's what this world needs. If the
Yeah.
West wants to improve its relationship with the Middle East, that has to be through a mediator. And we've seen Turkey act as a mediator before when they had Russia and Ukraine sit down in Turkey for the initial talks for peace.
Well, they were a
They
bit.
didn't work out, but they still served as that mediator and that bridge,
Yeah,
which I
they were
think is
just with
fantastic.
the United States and Saudi Arabia with mitigating the Sudan ceasefire.
Hmm.
So it'd be good for them. I mean, that's
Now, I'm not saying that
yeah.
the international community should just use Turkey
No.
and just use them for as a mediator for any issue, but they are they're a perfect example. I mean, they are with the right leadership, of course. I don't think under Erdogan it would be a good. No, I don't want to pick sides, but personally, it's just a personal preference. But at the end of the day, it's up to the Turkish people who they want
Yep.
to see because they're on the ground and we're not, and we're just
Yeah.
monitoring it on our end. But I think Kamal would be the better choice if I
Yeah.
were to
I
have an
mean,
opinion on
if
this.
you were to look at it in comparison to like Western society and how we look at it, Erdogan is more of the conservative type of leader in Western terms, where he's kind of looking inward and focusing on not Turkey and not trying to build up international institutions versus Kamal. We don't know what he'll be like, but
He's
from
been
what
in
he's
government
saying,
for 30 years as a civil servant, so
yeah. But as a politician, we don't know.
we
But
don't know. Yeah,
yeah, but he has been saying he wants to, like you said, he wants to help his be more of a participant in NATO and yep, and help with international institutions. So that could be. He's definitely more of what they would call a liberal, um, and not in an American sense. Liberal is more outward looking, in terms of just geopolitics, international relations terms.
yeah.
So that's should be an interesting election. Definitely to keep tabs. By the time this episode comes out, it will be the day after. Um, but we won't find out concretely until Monday anyway. Like they'll have oh wait, no, I lied. I lied. That's a lie. It will be this by the time this episode comes out, the elections will be
Underway.
well, yeah, the elections will be
Have they?
it's May the 15th. That's Monday, right?
That's when elections start, or have to be determined by the 15th.
That's when elections start.
Oh,
So
okay. So this is all right.
oh no, I am right. It will open Sunday 8 a.m. local time and close 5 p.m. The results will be expected on Monday.
Okay.
So we will this episode will come out and we'll have the election results. So we'll post it on our social medias exactly what the results were.
Yep.
So yeah.
One more thing I want to add before we move on is one thing that wasn't talked about in their campaign is the agency dispute, which is
Oh yeah.
yeah. Well, so for anyone that doesn't know, Turkey and Greece both have different claims to different islands in the agency. With Greece having more claims under international regulations of the 6 nautical mile rule. Um, Under that rule, that means Greece would have more control territorially, but Turkey has always challenged this, saying that they have different land claims as well. So, and there have been many disputes here and there with Turkish and Greek boats rivaling it out in the agency. I remember seeing a video. I don't know if I sent it to you, but remember if there was a video of a Turkish, uh, I think it was a
I
Turkish
did,
boat,
yeah.
and it was a Greek boat, and
Getting a little too close.
the Turkish boat got a little too close, and the Greeks fired up into the air, and then the Turkish boat went back. And this is disputes that kind of happen almost every day. We see this in Cyprus as well. We have the Cyprus question as well, the northern Cyprus and actual the Cyprus, the actual country of Cyprus as well. So
Yeah,
this is also another talking point in how either Kemal or Erdogan will handle this dispute. And if there can be, because Greece and Turkey relations are very, very strained.
yeah,
So but they can together, they if they can explore different ways to find natural resources in the agency, and the agency has a lot of untapped potential, but
yeah.
neither side are willing to dig oil into it because of territorial disputes and conflicts that could arise from it. So that's that's something that should be talked about,
For sure. Yeah,
yeah, in the pollings. But
definitely. That'd probably be something that'll come up like when they first start. Um, moving on though,
yeah,
that was make sure to keep up on those on Sunday. The polls will probably be keeping up. This is going to be a world election. Everyone's going to follow this one, but this is a big accusation by Ambassador Rubin. I'm not even going to try and say his last name. Brigidi. Um, I'm going to say Brigidi claimed that in December 2nd December 6th to the 8th of last year, um, Russia had a ship Cape Town, South Africa, where they were loading ammunition and arms to go back to Russia. So this is 2 months before the actual invasion, about 2 months and 14 days, or 16 days before the actual invasion occurred. So these are very big accusations. If you read the article, he says that, where is it? He is he's like very
certain.
certain. Like it's like, yeah,
My first question is how does he know that he's so certain, but the rest of the
I mean,
world,
pictures, evidence. Like
how has this not been handed over to U.S. intelligence yet?
how is
How
MI6
is
not gotten to it, or the
is it?
African Union? Like
I'm not saying that we could rule out this possibility. I'm saying these are big accusations with little to no evidence that we see on the news so far. Maybe it was handed over to U.S. intelligence, and it's just being kept secret for the time being to try not to publicly strain relations economically because the U.S. has said, listen, if we caught you doing this, we're going to cut off your access to U.S. markets. So
yeah, I
a big
mean
investigation is underway, but South African president was like, all right, we're going to let a retired judge handle this case.
they are.
Yeah.
Uh,
I read something on where the president has given the case over to well, not the case, more the whole investigation to be led by a retired South African judge. So that, I mean, that kind of tells you that they just, even with the accusations, they may not seem to care as much.
Oh, definitely not. I mean,
But
Washington has also expressed concerns about South Africa's participation in military exercises with Russia and China during the anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine.
yeah,
So I just don't think South Africa, because of their role in BRICS, cares so much about what the U.S. thinks anymore, or of what the African Union thinks, which is kind of sad because South Africa was a leader of the African Union for a very long time. They're the second largest economy, I believe, with second or third largest economy within the African Union. They have a big role in, or they can play a big role in building up Africa to this mega powerhouse in the coming years. And they're kind of throwing it away by, secretly, if this is true, um, doing this, giving weapons to Russia and participating in military exercises with them. So this is big news because you just don't we don't need to see more people joining their sides. We just can't. Or more countries, I should
I
say.
mean, what can BRICS offer? There's just five different dictatorships coming together.
Yeah.
Five different dictatorships who have different interests, who have different views of the world. Do you think they're gonna actually work together that well? China, for example, they want control of BRICS. That's just how their Belt and Road Initiative is failing. So that's why they're like, okay, well, we have BRICS coming up. Let's see what we can do here, and maybe disband the Belt and Road Initiative and call it a BRICS initiative or something. So
Huh.
whatever it is, I'm just throwing out what China could
Could
do.
do, yeah.
Yeah, these are all possibilities, but I don't know. I don't know what South Africa is going to do. I don't know. We hopefully they haven't supplied those weapons to Russia because that's going to change a lot of things around the world from lack of access to US markets to how we view South Africa as an international community. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is it's a big accusation and I do want to see some evidence, but this might just be handled under the table and
Probably.
we might not see this
We
publicly.
definitely won't see it publicly. The South African leader has also said that they remain neutral in the war, which is, I don't know. It's just, it's really weird that South Africa would try to get involved because they're struggling economically right now
They have more things to worry about than
to get themselves involved in a
to
war.
sell than to give Russia weapons. I mean, is that how they want to be viewed in the international community
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing participating in BRICS, but there's another thing participating in a war. You
and
know?
internationally?
Yeah.
They're going to. I mean, he has threatened to leave the ICC should Russia come into should Vladimir Putin come to South Africa, and they're going to not force, but tell the president of South Africa to detain the Russian president. He said he won't, and he said I'll leave the ICC. So it's just how he's being viewed in the international community right now, and
Yeah.
he's making a decision of, do I want to continue globalizing with the world, or do I want to globalize with a rocky partnership between BRICS that has not yet fully developed yet because Russia is focused in Ukraine, China's focused on
Taiwan,
Taiwan,
yeah.
Brazil has their own region to worry about,
India's just there.
India's just kind of there, trying to work with the United States, trying to work with China. And then South Africa is buddies, well, trying to be buddies with Russia, but it's their choice. If that's how they want to be viewed, then that's
Their choice, yeah.
yeah,
But it'll be to their detriment in the future.
it will be very much so their detriment to the future.
Yeah.
Oh, it says here that U.S. intelligence services says they had, yeah, evidence that would only provide us via a credible investigation or inquiry. We take the allegations seriously and want to have credible, independent voices state the actual matter of facts. So they have enough evidence to create an investigation,
Okay.
but not enough evidence to actually
Say that it happened.
say that it happened.
Yeah.
So
Interesting stuff, but that's all I have to say about that. These are two pretty big. Turkish election is definitely something that's going to be influence the next generation of people for the Muslim world and to bridge the gaps between the Western world and the Muslim world. And for all that, yeah, I mean, if Erdogan wins, it could change their relationship with everything and turn more conservative. And if Kamal wins, it could turn them more outwards and have them participate more in the global community.
I
So
hope the Turkish community want to look more outwards now instead of inward.
I agree.
I hope that happens because it's important for the entire world to look outward
Yeah,
at a time like this.
I definitely agree. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. Make sure to keep up on the things that we discussed. Do your own research so you guys can be informed as well. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.